Hey guys, it's JCI Gaming here, and today I wanted to talk about something that I found really interesting, and I'm assuming you will too. Minecraft has had its fair share of interesting updates, especially back in the early days of its development, some of which have intrigued me enough to talk about in this video. You probably haven't heard of any of these, maybe like one or two, but when I started making this video, I had no clue what 90% of them were. And no, I won't be including any of the April Fool's updates in this video since I have covered them in a previous video. I'll put it in the description. Feel free to watch that if you haven't already. Also, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the subscribe button. I put a lot of work in these videos and I would really appreciate it. With that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Also, please join the Discord, I need more members. This is by far the most popular obscure version of Minecraft, and you might recognize it just by me showing you one thing. These things used to generate naturally in the exact same spot in every world. However, they aren't the only thing obscure about this update. It is also strange because the obsidian lines covering the entirety of the X and Z axis, marking the center of the map. Now, you may ask, why are all of these things here? Are they structures similar to villages? Was it just Notch messing around with his game? Well, no, there isn't a definite answer, but it's safe to assume that these things were most likely put there for debugging and testing purposes. There's also a massive stack size going all the way up to 999 items in one stack. This is something I kinda wish stayed in the game in a way. It would make building stuff 10 times easier. The world generation in general is also kinda strange, but this is shared among most of the InfDev updates. Another interesting fact about the version is the first build, InfDev 2010-02-27-1, is the only InfDev build that is lost. The one I'm playing in the background is the second build, which is practically the same, but the pyramid isn't cut in half. When developing the first version of this update, Notch reduced the build limit to 128 from 256, but forgot to decrease the size of the pyramid with it. Because of this, the pyramid was cut in half along with the build limit. One more thing, opening a chest crashes your game, which is also kinda weird. This version had two very strange bugs that allowed it to do two very strange things. For one, the world generation was all over the place, but in a good way. Now, I'm actually serious with this. I enjoy world generation like this way better than the stuff we have now. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but it is crazy. Floating islands, massive mountains, what more could you want? The second thing is something that makes this update a bit more painful. Hostile mobs could spawn in the day, and not the normal amount of them either. There were tons. If you walk by a tree or somewhere else where zombies or skeletons can burn, you bet you'd be mauled in the back of the head with a ton of arrows. Mind you, I'll cut Notch some slack since it was the first update to include natural mob spawning, and he got that part right. Just needed a bit of tweaking. However, other than those two things, nothing else was really that strange. Let's move on. This version is definitely the strangest one on here for sure, and it's fucking hilarious. There are just random mobs T-posing around, 2D tools, blocks bugging out when you try to break them while switching between two tools. It's just so confusing. I don't know what was going through Notch's head when he was making this, but just imagine if he had this mindset now and was still developing the game. It would probably be really fun, but anyways, Flint Steel was added in this update along with this cool battle axe looking thing. Sadly, it is just a regular axe, but still cool nonetheless. Back to my initial points. There were random mobs called Rana, I don't know what it's called, but they were T-posing around, and it's just funny to watch in general. It got a good laugh out of me when I launched this version. I still really don't know the motive of adding this character to the game, but let me know if you figure that out. Tools are 2D when held in your hand, which is also really strange, but my favorite part of this version is the disco block, as I like to call it. When you would quickly switch between two tools when breaking a block, the block would cycle through textures within the game's files. This happened because certain block types were able to be broken by certain tools faster, which for some reason caused this to happen. Literally everything is weird in this version. First of all, mobs have this weird walking animation where they kind of just skip around and move their legs really slowly. Second of all, the walking sound was so loud and it all sounded like the player's footsteps, so as soon as you open a world, all you hear is walking noises and it kind of gives off this eerie feeling of somebody else like being in the world with you. Third of all, you can break most blocks at the same speed and light TNT with your fist. You could also defuse the TNT by punching it a second time while it is about to explode. Another weird thing about this version is that it's actually two versions, one for creative and one for survival. There is actually one good thing about this update though, and that is the improved world generation time. The world gen took up to 2 minutes in older versions, and this update made it so it only took a couple of seconds. So in other words, this update was revolutionary despite being strange. This version of Minecraft had something that no other game at the time had. That thing being a 4K resolution setting. Damn, Notch was ahead of his time, but you may be asking, how the fuck did he manage to do that? Well, it's actually because he didn't, and I was joking, but Minecraft 4K is actually a 2.5 gigabyte version of Minecraft that is very, very limited. The project was created for the Java 4K contest held in 2010. The contest required the game to be below 4096 bytes in size, in which Notch created this thing. The original Minecraft 4K version, released in 2009, was technically the worst and most limited version of Minecraft. You couldn't even place and break blocks and had to play in windowed mode. Notch released an update 2 days later that allowed you to do these two things, but in the original it was impossible. Another strange thing about this version was that there were no mobs at all, and the world was just a huge mess of random blocks. Speaking of blocks, there were only a couple to choose from. Them being grass, dirt, stone, bricks, logs, and leaves, along with an air and untextured block. The game was also really low resolution, making everything really fuzzy, but by far the weirdest part about this update was the fact that the world was 64 by 64 by 63. Like, what the hell, you couldn't have made it just slightly larger to make it an evenly sized world? Like, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh there, but something that I will be harsh about is the mouse controls. The camera is almost like slippery, and you almost have to move your mouse like across your entire mouse pad in order to actually turn around. I am really glad that Notch didn't implement this into the regular game. I'm gonna end this video with like the most boring version possible, but anyway, there aren't that many strange things about this version, but there is one thing that makes it worth mentioning. This version doesn't have any text at all. This includes the menu, the chat, and anywhere else there is text. When you launch the game, it plays the regular title animation, but you'll notice something strange that no other version has. There are just gray squares with nothing inside of them. So in other words, you're basically playing the options menu on hard difficulty. Luckily, a seasoned Minecraft veteran like myself has memorized the options menu, removing the need for text. A bit of an underwhelming way to end the video, but still a weird version nonetheless. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't uploaded in a while, but don't worry, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any strange disease, but I do have an extreme procrastination issue. That's pretty much the only reason. Every time I would try to work on this video, I'd be like, hey, why not do it after dinner? It's not like I have anything else to do anyways, but then I would go directly to playing The Binding of Isaac or something like straight after I ate. The shit's addicting, okay? Don't judge me, I swear. Other than that though, like, subscribe, and join the Discord if you don't mind. It really helps in terms of motivation, so I would really appreciate it. Alright, that's it. See you in 2 months.